Carla and I are really thrilled to be here with you today. We go to the next slide. We know many of you from different presentations we've done, and some of you are new to us. I'm the founder of the National Association of Memoir Writers, which I founded in 2008, before memoir was quite what it is right now. But I love personal stories, and I really wanted to help people learn how to write theirs and get them published. And so that's the path I've been on for a long time. And I met Carla along the way. Carla.
Hi, welcome everybody to So You Want to Write a Memoir. I've been very happy to have been teaching with Linda Joy for this past couple of years. We've known each other for such a long time. And it's been quite a journey because, we're both memoir authors. We both also have professional books about writing craft in Linda Joy's case, and for me on publishing professionally, self-publishing professionally, also memoirs. We're book consultants, editors, writing coaches, instructors. We speak at conferences, etc. So thank you for joining us and trusting us on your writing journey. We're thrilled to present this how to start segment for you.
Yeah, beginnings are, so many people say to us, well, how do I really begin? And it's such an important question because we have all these stories in our head, memories, moments that changed our lives. And, we have to learn how to think about how to put our mind around how do we know what they are? How do we find them? How do we pull them together to turn into stories? So we're going to take you through all of these layers today. The why, your your message, which is also a universal message, and turning points, which is a important tool to get you rolling in developing your stories.
Yeah, and Linda Joy has developed this whole system for finding turning points. I'm so impressed. It was when she said turning points the first time, it was brilliant. It was like, how do you get your head around the turning points? But you're going to learn it now very quickly. And it really is the key to everything. So we'd love to know why you're writing your story. If you'd put in the chat, like there are so many reasons: inspire, educate, share your life lessons. For me, it's like short travel episodes, motorcycle journeys. I write about, 4 months at a time. Your story won't leave you alone. Leave a legacy. Become a thought leader in your business. Why don't you just pop it in the chat? What is your reason for writing your memoir?
Yeah, we'd love to hear from you.
Stories from family, inspirational.
Yeah.
Cancer survivor, yes. Yeah,
Self-discovery.
healing journey.
Inspirational, yeah, healing, yeah. Family patterns, that was one of my reasons. It won't leave you alone, yeah. I like to say my story chased me until I finally wrote it down.
Yes, yes.
Money.
Crafts want to make some money.
Well, that would be good too, of course. Transformational journeys.
Won't leave me alone.
Yeah.
Yes.
Many years when we get older, there are so many layers of stories that nobody will know if we don't write them down, and they can learn. We all are learning on this path to wherever we're going.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Great. Unusual occupation. We're going to talk about that too.
Mm-hmm.
Wonderful. Keep it coming as we go through. You're welcome to use the chat, and I'll be monitoring that. So if you have a question, we're going to have a Q&A at the end.
Mm-hmm.
So you can please go ahead and put your question in the chat. And if you would capitalize it, question, so that I could really see it, we'll address it at the end. Okay.
Yeah. And Carla, I wrote a note to you, so just check it out.
Okay.
All right, so let's see, where are we? Are we going to the next slide?
Yes.
What is your memoir about? Wow. Yeah. So we want to hear from you also. But the thing, it sounds so simple. My memoir is about X, but this is a very difficult sentence for many people to put together. So we want to try to help you think about this and really think about how can you boil down the whole lot of things that you want to share into an arc. And this doesn't happen like in 1 minute, but finally, for my book, Don't Call Me Mother, I realized that my story was about writing about 3 generations of mothers who'd abandoned their daughters and how all of us coped with that. And my decision, or my attempt, my decision to break that cycle was part of why I wrote the book. And so, we all have a reason uh, to write our story. And Carla, you wrote.
Yes, and I'm a traveler, a travel writer, and my memoirs tend to be about a particular space and time. My American Borders Motorcycle Diaries is a 4-month period of my life. And of course, there are lots of backstory and flashbacks. So, though it's contained in that 4-month journey, it does pull in things about my childhood and my relationship with my parents. But the 4-month is a nice, the journey is a nice container. So maybe you have a container for your story that you can start thinking about. And just to go on to the next one, I'm reading Lisa Bailey's book. She's an artist and a forensic specialist for the FBI, a sculptor in her book. So that's about her career journey. I heard somebody say that they had an interesting career. And Wife, Mother, Spy by Ann Butler is like, how are you an espionage, and how are you a covert intelligence officer while you're raising a family?
Yeah, that's that would be a challenge. And then H is for Hawk. It's a book that actually a beautiful book about a woman who is training a hawk while she's also grieving the death of her father. And also Brooke Warner and I uh, teach memoir together. Maybe you have heard of her, and I can put a link in. And we taught that book, and it's for sale also as a class. And so we can get you that link later. So, Carla.
Yeah, so we've just talked about what the books are about, but now we're delving into why does it matter? And it was funny because Linda Joy was helping me write my next memoir about China, and she kept writing notes in the side. Is like, okay, so this happened, but what are you making of it? Why does it matter? Why does it matter? And so I really learned a lot from that a few years ago. So Linda Joy, yours is.
So, you know, when the stories are swirling around us, it's hard to come up with this. And so we want you to start thinking about it ahead of time because it took me a while. I mean, sometimes we need to write for a little while to be able to formulate words around this, but ultimately, it is about my book is about in my life is about coping with learning how to cope with things that were very, very painful and hard to deal with, but find ways to go forward and find ways to both change patterns and have hope for the future. And these are such big concepts, they're sort of like almost meaningless because they're so big, but yet it helps us to find some of those words and then we can boil them down into specific events that illustrate and reveal what those words actually mean.
Mhm. And for my motorcycle diaries, and I have a few of them, my message, why does it matter, is I hope to show people, especially women, that it is just fine to travel around the world alone, to China, India, the rewards of stepping outside one's comfort zone with preparation and intention. is the bigger message here. And I have heard from many people that my memoir has inspired them to step out, go on their motorcycle trip, on their road trip, on their, round the world journey or train trip solo instead of waiting for the safety of a group or a partner.
Mm, such courage. And then others here again were summarizing, the theme. Why does it matter? It can also be called a theme. The strength to stay true to one's passion, a commitment to a higher cause can bring a meaning to your life, connections with nature. So
All right.
it's our personal message, and then you want to go on to the next slide. So how the personal message links into, the universal message is also something to think about, but not to get hung up on is the thing.
Yes. And so as you see, if when you read memoirs, just take a look at what the container is, what the subject is, and then the why that it matters. So we have the other examples here as well.
Yeah. So some of you are already putting this in, which is great. You know, I think one way to make it bigger than ourselves, which you're mentioning here, is our story, and yet our story in the context of what else is going on, perhaps. So you might think of the era that your story takes place, or and the time period, because history shapes how we are, how we react, how we think, how we feel, even the image we have of ourselves. Recently, I've been thinking about writing about the 60s, and I was struggling myself in the 60s, which is, I was a very naive young person, and the waves of new things, new ways to think, and new ways to be in the world were really blowing my mind at the time. But I was thinking, well, okay, it's my little story, but it happened in an era where so much was happening. And I didn't live a big story. I didn't join a commune. I didn't do a lot of things you hear about the 60s. And many people, some of us say, well, we've heard people say, well, I just lived an ordinary life. Is that going to be interesting? Yes, because your unique experience and your unique view of what it was like to live that life at that time and make the choices you made is unique, and no one else has that story.
Yes, and what about you? I mean, why don't you put in the chat, what situation and what time period, as we just demonstrated, and what is the takeaway for readers if you could think about that? The container. Yeah, we'd love to hear from you about that. And if you have any questions about that, um, put the word question in caps, and we'll try to get to it later. But it's definitely worth thinking about right now before you write and outline your story.
Yeah, it's good to think about it, and it will be an evolving thing, actually.
Mhm.
Back to nature, we got some 940s, current, entire life. We'll discuss the entire life thing too,
Yes.
actually, along the way. We all have so many stories, but you may have, don't freak out, you may have more than one book. You may have a longer story, you may have some short stories or some vignettes or a novella length story, so again, it's like what is the focus and how do we get going with it?
Mhm. Yes, and we're talking about memoir here and not autobiography. An autobiography is a tough book to write because it's your entire life.
Well, I agree. And a
Mhm.
lot of people start with going, but I have all this stuff. This is why we're doing turning points.
Mhm.
Um, and the definition of a memoir is a slice of life, not a whole life. But I've had many people in classes say to me, Well, I want to write about more than just a slice. And so if you have a theme that covers quite a few years, that focuses it down so it is not your whole life, but it may cover a series of years under that umbrella of theme, which is a more complex thing to figure out, which we're going to do in the class that follows this called Birth of a Memoir. We're going to break down more about how to do that. Whereas right now we want to look at sort of the basics of, finding the key turning points and key events, which is the way to begin. So this is a method that I actually invented for myself when I was writing Don't Call Me Mother. I was like, okay, well, what really matters in my story? And it was going to be cover a long range of time because the evolving me and the evolving story with my mother and my grandmother went over quite a few period of years. So in the first draft, maybe I wrote about a few other things, but mostly I was focusing on mothers and certain things that happened. So you want to make a list of significant change to start with. So what are the 5 or 10 most significant things? Just starting with that, people say, oh, I have a lot more than that. I know you will, in fact, but to get started, we can't start with all of them. We start with, it could be 10 or 20 to start with, because we have to be able to lay it out. We'll show you how you can think about it. Moments of insight, shift in consciousness, an event that made a difference, whatever that might be, and there will be several of these probably. And then what date, when did this happen? Now you'll go, oh gosh, I didn't bring a calendar with me that day, and I don't have a tape recorder. And I know, but about how big were you? About what year do you think it was? And try not to stress over those details. If you were 10 and a half or 11 and a half, it doesn't probably matter that much. But what matters is the way that you looked at the world, the way you thought of things, and something that impacted you strongly. Um, where did it take place in the world? Grounding, where these turning points are going to lead to scenes, and scenes, if you think about a scene on a stage, take place in a place at a certain time and things evolve. So you want to list on your turning point list where this was approximately. If you don't exactly remember, I think it was in blip, just write it down. A lot of times your first thought is correct. Who's with you? Because we don't live by ourselves. There's other people with you, and other people that you loved and knew or struggled with or whatever it was are called characters in memoir. Yeah, they were real people in your life, but in a story, they turn into characters. And we aren't going to be able to teach character today, but if they were there with you, you need to um, put it down in the turning point scene. Carla, what would you like to add?
I just want to add that it seems laborious to make this list, and when you want to do your creative writing, but actually it helps so much because I was able to just focus on that one time. And I think when we're thinking about our whole lives and our whole experience, it is difficult to focus on one scene at a time. We're going to be talking about scenes in just a minute, and one situation and one turning point where you changed your mind about something or something really important was demonstrated. And so that was a huge value to me, is that ability to focus on the thing, on the message that I was trying to get across in the memoir, or the messages, because there are many messages. So that focus is just incredible to have as a guide.
Mm. Yeah, it really helps. So let's look at what else goes in this little notation you're going to be making, and we're going to say more about the turning point list for the next couple of slides as well. But, a lot of times people make a list. Okay, here I was at this time, and this is what happened, period. Well, if it's a significant moment and it changed you, note what the change was, what the aha was, what the oh no, that happened kind of. So what's the meaning of the moment? And every scene needs to have a reason for its existence. Every story, when you're reading a story, you're looking at, oh, this is what happened. Oh my gosh, what's not only what's going to happen next, but what's going to happen to my character that I'm reading about in the story, and how are they going to deal with it emotionally? What are they going to do in response emotionally? We read memoirs to learn about the inner lives of other people, not just what they did or where they were, but how they dealt with things. Um, and the as you develop the story, uh, you will find these different moments in time. You'll be the protagonist and the narrator letting the reader know about these things. Now, again, it's more complicated than we can teach today, but it is going to be in our Birth of Memoir class, because this is a lot of what people struggle with as well. Do I tell it from now, or am I just in then? And if I'm a child, how do I get it across? Like, those are fantastic questions because they are important. But for now, we're just trying to pin down the moments and the meaning.
Hmm.
Carla.
And yes, like I said before, Linda Joy kept saying, how did this moment affect you? What was the meaning it had for you? And my block in my story was, I'm just telling it what happened. Nobody cares what I'm thinking about. It just happened, right? I'm just writing about me and my thoughts and who am I to be projecting my internal world to the world. But that really is the most important thing, isn't it, Linda Joy?
Yeah, yeah, like, remember I teased you a little bit when I was reading China Road, and there were all these amazing things you were doing, which I admired. Like, I could never do these things. I mean, never, not in a million years. So that was there. But also, a couple times I was like, well, as you were sitting beside the road with your broken whatever, I mean, what were you thinking? And did you feel discouraged at all? Or was it like you were always rah, 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 rah all the time? Or what? So, I asked you these nosy questions about your internal world.
And I thank you for that.
So here we are with a way, it's kind of a interesting design here, but what you can do is create this list. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, start with that. Or 20, but don't get too many, because then you'll go, oh my God, now there's so many. What am I going to do with this? So the example is the year 1978. This is just an example. 25 years old. Okay, great. Pin that down. Where? San Francisco. Okay. Lots happening in San Francisco in the 70s. Oh, how interesting. Okay. Found the man I would marry. Aha. All right. That's an important, significant moment. Full of dreams that didn't work out is the actual, meaning, the point, the emotional thing behind the what happened. And just, it's a note for you. We have so many stories. If you make a note for yourself on this list, it helps you get your mind around what these moments are, why they matter, where it happened. This is all going to help you when you're starting to form scenes around these moments, which we're going to talk about soon. Did you do any of this kind of list making at some point just for the heck of it, Carla?
I did. I started to deconstruct, my new book, and what I've happened was I got 30 or 40, and so now you hack them down after that. Is that really important? Does that really need to be there? Should that be in a different book, for instance? Mhm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm glad you said that, because let's say you do end up with a lot, don't freak out, save them, go over them. They might go in a different, like we're talking about, smaller book or vignette, or, I mean, you've all lived so many rich lives in our life. So it's a tool to just keep honing. I looked at my journals So when I was writing Don't Call Me Mother, this is 25 years ago, and I had these, these notebooks, spiral bound notebooks, and I followed through the several years of writing. And here were turning points all the way through. I kept going over them to make sure, and then I added new ones and new ones. And that's the spine of my book. They were there, but I had to write them down so I could kind of get my mind around what am I going to write next? Okay, what comes next? And in a coming of age book or transformation book, often it is going to be in chronological order. And some people say in classes we've taught, oh, isn't it boring to have a book in chronological order? No, and it's not boring. It is a work that reveals growth, meaning, and transformation. And we grow in order, as the years go by. And it's a very valid way of doing it, in case that's a question some of you may have.
Yeah, and so we're going to provide a replay, so you might want to pause here and make that list for those who are watching the recording. Can just pause and list maybe 10 or 6, 5 turning points, and just try it out for yourself.
Yeah, let's have you do that. Take some notes as you go today too. Some of you are putting things in the. We'll come to the chat in a little bit and kind of go through it with all of you. And thank you so much for putting so much in the chat. You all get the chat as well as the recording afterward. So we appreciate your participation. This is wonderful. How it all fits together. So this is the logic of it, grinding the wheels, past, present, and future. Oh my goodness. So the way it works is we lived it. Okay, great. Now we're trying to pin down significant moments, what happened when, that transformed us, changed us, that gave the meaning that we do have to the lives that we're living, that we want to share with others. So that's kind of the arc of the, why are we writing a memoir anyway? Well, many of you are doing it for yourself and because you feel like you have a story that might help someone else or give someone else hope or educate someone else about something in particular. And, I don't know if you all know, but, like about 10 or 15 years ago, some New York Times pompous somebody or other decided that memoir was dead. And we'd heard enough of these emotional stories and, or they're just for women and, very patronizing kind of stuff, which infuriated many of us who are teaching memoir. And guess what? He was wrong. Memoirs, sales, memoir writing has soared incredibly. And, it's you're writing history. We are all living history books. Every era that we have lived through is personal history. And it all matters, maybe particularly now. And so we want to encourage you to, do what you need to do to write your story. So how it happens is turning points turn into scenes. So I want to say something about scenes, and I want you to help me, Carla, because scenes are the way that the reader lives in your story. Scenes include sight, smell, sound, touch, and taste. And they've done studies where when someone's reading a book and they have these electrodes attached to them and they're reading a passage with sensual detail, we call it sensory details, your body is living in that story. And you've all read books, you know how that feels. So the brain lights up in the same way that it would if we were actually living it when you're reading a scene with all these particular details in. What do you think, Carla? Isn't that incredible?
Yes, and I just, as a travel writer and journalist for many years, the focus is always on the sensory details. Oftentimes I'm writing for an audience who wants to go to a place. And, the job is to make the person, live that moment of the beach and the sand, the powdery sand, or the taste of the mango or the coconut and the sounds. And, to taste, smell is actually the strongest sense. And so I used to have 5 Post-it notes on my wall, and I would go through my story for my assignment, and I would go sight. We're always using sight, sound, some sound, taste, food. It's easy. Touch is also often missing. The feel of clothes or the feel of the sand, heat and cold, and touch, taste, sound. What did I miss?
No.
So yes, so the more you can do that, the more you're going to put the reader in, and it's just now it's a muscle now that I have from all those years of travel writing.
Right. Wait. Go back.
Go back one.
I'm still, yeah, want to say a couple
Okay.
more things. So, you'll notice we said not summaries, showing, not telling what happened. So most of you have heard the old saw, show, don't tell. Now in memoir, we do tell some. It's when and how do we reflect, tell, think, think in certain, sometimes longer moments, make sense of something. Again, that making meaning part is us thinking and putting together things. So it's very much part of memoir writing, and it's connected with scene though. So in a scene, something happens, you're involved in it, there's action, there's interaction, there's all this stuff. And then after the scene, shortly after, maybe a moment after, or even a little bit during, you're thinking, you're reacting, oh no, this happened. Oh no, what can I do about it? Oh, I got to fix this. Oh my God, that was wonderful. Whatever you're thinking. And so a scene includes showing very much and telling, reacting, and giving meaning, all of it. And we're letting you know what goes in a scene. And let's look at the next slide now. Thanks. Uh, you know, uh, we're going to be taking a deeper dive into how to exactly do that in Birth of a Memoir, but this is what you have to have a successful memoir. Somebody was asking in the chat about what do we need to avoid? Well, let's look at it this way. What do you need to include? And so really understanding the significant moments and creating scenes is the way to create a story that then your reader is going to be feeling it with you. They're inside you. Mary Carr used the term zip the reader up in your skin. Oh my gosh. And so then the reader looks through your eyes, feels in your body, your heart pounding, the thrill of something or fear, whatever it might be, and they can't stop turning the pages. So that's the real key, is scenes. So what do you think about scenes, Carla? I mean, you use them. Was there a time when you were like, oh gosh, do I have to do this? Or was it kind of natural for you to get into scenes?
I No, it wasn't natural. I don't think it is natural because we assume that everybody is telepathic, right? Like, why don't you know what I'm talking about, right? You've been there. But scenes, as you have always stressed, need to also include that action and reaction. And that reaction that you keep talking to us about is real. What is your reaction? What are you thinking? Are you scared? Are you thrilled? Are you relating it to something in your past? That's when the flashbacks come in, right? In a scene, which this is, we're cover that in the Birth of Memoir course that we're having soon. But there are a lot of very juicy elements and ways to uh, it, ways to bring the reader in. And I find that most people constrain their scenes too small. And when you're remembering something, that first time that you remember it is the
Mm.
strongest memory. So when you're
Ah.
writing it down for the first time, you're reliving it. And people are like, oh, I'll leave that out because that's not interesting. Leave it in. You've got one chance really to fully re-experience it. And it's way easier to delete than it is to add. So overwrite. I love, we love slashing instead of adding. It's much harder.
Mhm. Yeah, some people, can't add it the first round sometimes because emotionally maybe it's intense,
Mm.
but you can put little notes in there like add grief, crying or whatever at this moment if you aren't able to write it out yet. So when people are writing, a lot of times the emotions can get pretty strong too, and you do need to find your way with having balance with that. All these years with memoir writing, we run into this, but you can put a note in the manuscript, and you can just say, "Come back to this." Put it in red. Put an asterisk there. Put a note in, um, because you will come back to it, especially if it's a strong emotion. And because it's strong, it probably did affect you, change you, do something along the way. And, so it can come out in layers. But yeah, if you have a sense of, oh, yeah, don't edit what Carla's saying, don't edit on the page. Don't edit, edit, edit. And also, I make all my students raise their hand and promise not to hit the delete button. Because
Ah.
like you were saying, Carla, you can go, oh dear, oh no, and oh, I should have written that. Oh my God, how could I write such a thing? Oh, what will my mother say? What will my high school graduation people say? They're not reading your draft unless you send it to them. It's your draft, it's your story. Keep it safe so you can develop it. But if you hit the delete, I did know someone in my graduate program at Mills who deleted everything when she was having a bad time. I guess she was depressed or something. And her inner critic came out. I was sad for her. I mean, maybe she needed to do that. I'm not criticizing her, but I felt sad because she was a beautiful writer and I knew some of the things she had written. So I make all my students put it in a I hate this folder, or oh my God, I can't believe I wrote this folder, or whatever, or just save it there and look at it later.
This is why I love teaching together with Linda Joy, because we're so different. We're very different. And you're so good with the healing memoir, because there are tender spots that you might want to skip over. And I often forget that, coming from more of a travel adventure memoir background. So we're a good combo.
Yes, we are.
Yes, thank you for reminding.
Oh well, it's just the way we all need to kind of be reminded of the things that are harder for us. So we have a short list, a very short list of a few memoirs, and my book, Power of Memoir, is a how-to book. But the best way to become a better writer is to be an avid reader, and even reading some of these books more than once. Maybe you read Wild when it came out, but if you're thinking of the craft of memoir, you can read Wild and look at how did she do these scenes on a trail and the memories about her mother and her family and all the things that she felt that she had done wrong. And the same for Tender Bar and Love Warrior. They're written in scene with these emotional reflections all the way through, as I also attempted to do in my book, Don't Call Me Mother. And Carla, talk about your book.
My book, American Borders, like my other books that are coming up, are blogs. I was an early blogger and a travel journalist. And so American Borders is a blog to book. So you know, I struggle with this book because I wish I could do a do-over with it, because I'm following it in a linear manner. And I think that the climax of the book comes too soon. And now later, much later, that I'm a better writer, I would have put a lot more backstory in it. And this is also why I think, you know, everyone needs to hire a developmental editor to help you with those things that you don't know at first, or have a writing group or writing partners, writing workshops, so that the arc would be more in line with reader expectations. I do have, my own fans and market people who love it, but to reach the general readers of memoir, I would like a do-over, actually. But the blog to book, the chronological, is also very, very popular. So, yeah.
Well, before we go on to our next slide, I was wondering if we should look at some of the questions and comments in the chat, and then we can go on with some more things that we want to share with everybody.
Sure. Kathy asks, reading in your journal, she finds many things repetitive and cringeworthy. She gets up the courage to look at them. How do you work with these in writing your memoir, these cringeworthy journal entries?
Oh, that's your inner critic cringing away. I think look for the meaning for you at that time because, we're different when we're looking back at the person who wrote the journal entries, right? We're not that same person anymore. So now we can go, oh my God, what did I do that? Or, oh, how stupid. I did this. I went through all my journals last year and I was like, oh my God.
Mhm.
Oh, so, we just need to try to notice that you're criticizing that person perhaps or judging that person through the eyes of who you are now or maybe what you wish you had done differently. But see if you can go back to who that person was, look at a picture of her, and have some empathy for whatever she was going through and try to approach it that way. But we all do this, it's very normal. But there might be an important story in there too, and you don't want to just toss it out because you feel embarrassed or ashamed temporarily or judgmental or wish you had lived differently because that's normal. I mean, we all do this.
Yeah, we have about 15 minutes left, so I want to answer one more question and then go on to the rest, if that's
Okay.
okay. Barb asks, what is a primary flaw that we can hopefully avoid that would likely produce a weak or unpublishable memoir?
Yeah, that's what I was talking about when I was talking about scenes. So,
Mhm.
yeah, if you don't have enough scenes, it will probably be not as your reader won't be probably as involved with your ongoing experience as if you have scenes and then figure out which ones and where they go. Well, that's a planning, that's part of the development of a memoir to find those.
And I have a quick answer to Anne's question about what if you're trying to encompass your whole life and look at transformations and recreating yourself in different ways. And
Mm.
I mean, I think you may have more than one memoir here, and uh, uh, it's might be good to find a transformational time period and use that as the linear voice for
Mhm.
to anchor the flashbacks and the backstory on. Do you agree with
Mhm.
that, Linda Joy, or do you have a different approach?
Well, um, you need to find out what works for you. I mean, I think that focusing on scenes and meaning is kind of the broad answer that we can give you right now. But a memoir is built through scenes and reflection, and we are going to teach that in the next course. But if you read some of these memoirs, you'll see how these other writers did that, and sometimes you do have more of a fragmented vignette kind of orientation too. There are so many ways memoirs are being written. Somebody's writing in the chat about Maggie Smith's You Could Make This Place Beautiful. By the way, the good news is that Brooke Warner and I are going to teach that book this spring in April. But it's a different kind of construction. There's long narrative memoirs, and those used to be like, oh, the way you kind of should do it. And now. All along, there's been other ways, but now the form is sort of breaking open. So there's a lot more choices. Still, helping the reader feel and be embodied with you in these moments is still the key.
Great. And we'll take more questions later. We have
Yes, we will.
time. So if you could precede your question with question, even if you the chat is very long. So remind me of your question by putting question
Yeah.
ahead of it right now. All right.
Okay.
Yes. So yes, we are having a deeper dive into all of this in our Birth of a Memoir course that starts on February 3rd. And it's a 4-week course where you're going to learn all of these techniques to create your memoir, one of your memoirs.
Yeah, so truth, we didn't even get into that today, but we
Mm.
will. What's my truth? Then dare I write it is usually what people often say. But your truth and your turning point moments, the significant moments that shaped you, that matter, that you feel other people can learn from, the meaning of these things and the action. So we aren't just thinking, we're acting, we're interacting. And characters, dialogue, and conflict. You all have heard about these things that are part of story writing. I always got tangled up about what conflict meant because I was like, no, I don't want conflict. Of course, my whole childhood was about conflict, but I had to struggle with that for a little while. But there's ways that you can grab, moments with other people in dialogue and in action that make it easier to write these things. And themes are the what is this all about, and what can people learn from it? So we're gonna dig into all of this.
Mm-hmm.
And hey,
And we, yeah, we do have a lot of bonuses for you. But we've worked for so long. We have a lot of assets that we can pass on to you in addition to the live classes with Q&A.
mhm,
The class actually includes a discussion area and a community, so you can ask questions even after the class or before the class. Linda Joy and Brooke Warner's course, she was just talking about Wild, What Made Wild by Cheryl Strait, a best-selling memoir. Class, Deconstructing Another Memoir.
yeah. So we teach a 4-week. We've been doing this for a very long time. I'll put the link there in a minute when I quit talking. But we've taught a whole bunch of different books. And so it's a 4-week course all on video where we're looking at what did she do? What are the themes? We take certain topics and we look at how she handled those craft skills in Wild, which recently Brooke called it kind of an almost perfect memoir because the structure, the storytelling, the moving back and forth in time is done so well.
Mm-hmm. And I'm also including understanding scenes in travel writing. I have a very large, big travel writing course, and understanding scenes in travel writing is just like understanding scenes in any other kind of writing. I dive deep into sensory detail and takeaways. And then I've also, we have friends in the industry, and the Dublin Writers Festival has offered this wonderful video session with author advice, including from Pulitzer Prize winners. So it's really generous of them to contribute that to our community. So I love that.
Thank you for that.
Thank you for that, Lawrence O'Brien.
Mhm.
So that's a value of over $100. And we're also, let's see, I talked about the discussion group that you join for Q&A and sharing and meeting each other. So often we're writing alone. And so I always love to have a community of the course members so you can meet each other and maybe find an accountability partner, maybe share some writing if you want to. in addition to the live instruction. So we have continuity between the weeks, right? We're a community for 4 entire weeks, not just 4 days of the week, right?
Yeah, it's so helpful to be like here people are chatting together, to have a place where people can comment, chat, ask questions,
Mhm.
um, just anything that you want to talk about, because we do write alone too much, and sometimes we do want like a particular writing buddy, where we could share work or something like that, which is up to you, but it's just so helpful to not feel so alone.
It is. And hey, if you sign up today, you'll get Breaking Ground on your memoir. Thank you, Linda Joy and Brooke Warner, for sharing that. It's a wonderful little book. I and so please sign up before midnight tonight and get that book
Mhm. Yeah, yeah.
as
Well, this
well.
book, the Breaking Ground on Your Memoir, by the way, lays out this whole turning point thing and mapping step by step by step. It's a little tiny little book, but in a little book, it says a lot of in a focused way about how you need to focus all this. So here comes somebody's asking about the course. Here we are, the cost of
Here's
the course.
the cost of the course. We wanted to make it affordable, so we priced it at $259. And there's a $10 bonus for $10 off if you sign up before Friday. If you're an NAMW member, Linda Joy always likes to give discounts to her wonderful members, and there's also an early bird discount for those members.
Yeah, I like to support NAMW members and help everybody. We want to help people be able to afford this class, and money is tight, but we're offering a lot for a 4-week class, a basic course on how to get started and where to go next, and all these details that really make your memoir cook. Mhm.
Yes. Well, and we hope that you got a lot out of this free webinar, this free class. For those of you who are really committed to writing your memoir, this course, Birth of a Memoir, will give you all the foundational elements.
Mhm.
So we'd love to have you in that course, and we love starting people out on their journey correctly. So you're writing, to the topic that you want to address, and possibly not your entire life, so you can focus in and be very productive and get it done this year.
Yeah, this is what's so challenging about writing a memoir, because it's so emotional. Even if we think we'd sorted out a lot of things along the way, and we have many times, but writing things down about our lives, writing down our truths, writing down, opening up our emotional vest, and expressing is something. It's really something to do, and it's helpful to have support in other human beings, and in a course, something, a structure, that can hold you while you do that, while you explore that. And being able to look at not only the craft, but in class, we talk about, if you did you write some scenes this week? How did it go? What was hard for you? Whoops.
Oh, sorry. I'm just somebody said the link didn't work, so I'm checking it out.
Oh, okay.
Hmm.
Yeah, let's make sure. So where do these discussions take place? Asked someone just now. Tony, thank you, Tony. The platform, right, Carla?
The discussions take place on the Writing and Publishing Circle, and it is a wonderful and a community. There are some free spaces there where you can also connect with other authors outside the course. So that offers a lot of value as well.
It's a platform where Carla holds the courses, and so it's not on nothing's on Facebook. It's a contained platform where our discussions and the teaching are enclosed. It's not for the whole world to see, but
Hmm.
it is a place where it can happen. And every session is recorded. And so yes, to some of those questions some of you are asking.
Yes, and I'm just checking here for that link because it doesn't seem to be working. So I will put the
Oh,
link.
yeah, let us know.
Yeah, it should be working fine. I don't know. Here is another link. That is the direct link.
Plus, you'll all be getting these things from Carla, the tech person, and in an email, too. So if it isn't working at this moment, I know Carla will solve it and get it figured out.
I'm the geek girl of the pair.
She is, thank goodness.
Did you want to answer any more questions, Linda Joy, as we
Yeah,
as
I'm
we for
looking.
the next
Yeah.
5 minutes?
So someone says, will it be offered later in the year? It's possible. We are offering different classes throughout the year, either this next birth of, or we're looking at another one after that. We're rolling them out gradually. It's only the 20th of the year, so we're
Mhm.
still cooking up stuff for you guys. But
And we do cook up things based on your needs. We'll like we taught a couple classes last year. I'm like, oh, these people need another class that
mhm,
advances their journey. So we offered another class, and many of those also joined.
yeah. What we've noticed and what I've noticed on some NAMW programs that I have been where people talk about their challenges is that a very focused short class can really help get people unstuck. So that's part of why we wanted to do Birth of a Memoir early in the year. Also, is here's some basic things to focus on, and because so many questions do come up, but start with the basics and then build. And you will get, yes, you'll get all this stuff. Carla's putting links and links and links in there. Mhm,
Email you the replay as well.
mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So, yes, I'm looking at some other questions. Thank you so much, all of you. Somebody asked a question, Robin above asked about finding a variety of ways to explain her body's triggered response to a trauma. And uh, saying felt is like, oh yeah. So yeah, writing emotion is very, very challenging. Briefly though, I think, and then you'll read writing books and they'll say, well, don't say I felt, I felt, I felt, I felt X, I felt X, I felt Y. But you reveal feeling through a body reaction, like your heart beating faster or catching your breath, and then a thought. So a physical reaction and a thought reveals feeling without saying I felt or without saying I thought. So there's ways that we can kind of get around this problem of I felt, I felt, I felt. But when you show something in a scene, the reader, since we're in your body looking through your eyes, we know how it felt because of how you wrote it. So learning how to write strong scenes will reveal what the reader needs to know without saying I felt. Generally, I mean, occasionally you can say I felt, but you know, once a chapter. So you need all these other tools.
We have techniques to help you not be repetitive.
We
And
have.
yes, if you can email us or go to our websites.
Mhm.
You're at to
I'm
work.
putting it in right now, my email, if anybody wants to reach me. I'm having a little email trouble, so if you don't reach me, try again or tell Carla you couldn't reach me, but I've been having my tech guy work on it. So,
And Helen, we cannot share email addresses with the group because this is private, but we do have the community and the writing and publishing circle, and you can communicate there.
can you put that? How do they get there?
Yes, I will do that.
Mhm.
I'll give you the straight link and not the bit.ly
The
links.
real link,
So
yeah.
explore that right now.
Mhm.
Writing and publishing circle. There are free areas there. And the courses that we teach are also listed there. So go ahead and jump in and take a look. It's a wonderful place for talking with each other, finding tech tools, discounts, and experts, and writing advice and news. You know, the writing and publishing world evolves so much. So we're often recommending new books, new publishing courses, new writing tools. I don't know what you write. Most of you are probably using Microsoft Word, and there are others as well.
Somebody's asking, are we able to sign up for that course? It's already been done, and we're giving you the bonus of that whole 4-week class. So you'll get it. Carla will be sending out stuff.
Lots of stuff. Well,
Yeah.
thank you. It's at the top of the hour again. Thank you for joining us on this important day. And we really appreciate you spending your time. And we look forward to seeing you start your memoir this year in
Yeah. Have a
2020.
good year of writing and exploring, and we hope to see you again soon. Bye-bye. Bye, everybody.
Bye, everybody.